Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to give you guys a follow-up video to the Path of Exile video talking about armor and the issues that it has in Path of Exile 2. It is a follow-up video because a lot of what I discussed in that video was under the assumption that armor worked very similarly to how it worked in PoE 1, and to illustrate the points and the comparison between defenses, I used the Path of Exile 1 armor formula. And Path of Exile being a game played by gigabrains and effectively rocket scientists, of course, it came to be that immediately after that video, people started looking a little bit further and trying to figure out the armor formula that is currently in the game for Path of Exile 2, and I thought it is important to make this video to actually update you guys with more factual information than that video, as many of you guys correctly identified that the armor formula might not be exactly the same. Maybe armor is actually pretty good. Maybe we are just not getting the armor formula right. Well, I did play an armor character in Path of Exile 2 for a long time. I did have varying amounts of armor, and I was playing solo self-found, so you can really feel the differences when you get an upgrade. And basically, I gave you guys a statement that it was pretty similar to Path of Exile 1 because it kind of felt like it, and I have pretty good game sense. But it turns out I was wrong. The armor formula in PoE 1 is not quite the same as it is in PoE 2. It seems to have the same type of, function, but it has a constant that is a little bit different. So, the news is bad. Basically, it turns out that the armor is much worse than I even expected and described in the previous video. This user blue.55 on Reddit had some testing, and the testing methodology is actually very good because there is a node on the passive tree that gives you 15% of prevented physical as life recoup over 8 seconds. And yes, recoup in Path of Exile 2 is over 8 seconds. If you're wondering why all those juicy recoup nodes seem like they suck, it's because recoup sucks. Because in PoE 1 it's 4 seconds and it's quite good. 8 seconds, not as good. So anyway, that actually allows them to have very good information, and using this information he was able to approximately plot the graph and realize that the function looked very similar to the armor formula in Path of Exile 1, with the difference that the formula is generally in PoE 1 armor divided by armor plus 5 times damage, but in PoE 2 it's armor divided by armor plus 12 times damage. And generally what this means is that if we go to our trusty chart over here, if you were to kind of see where it is on the chart, like for example for Zesh, I use the example of this is like almost 5,000 damage. Basically, that would behave if we use this chart as if it does 12,000 damage. So divided by 5 times 12. Meaning that the information that I gave you guys of this boss, if you had 20,000 armor, you'd mitigate 44% of the physical damage. Well, actually, it's 12,000 damage if we use this chart, because the armor formula is actually even worse in Path of Exile 2, and instead of basically reducing the hit by half, again it's not 10, it's 12, it's more like 25%. So what I told you guys about Cloak of Flame being about equivalent to 20,000 armor, that's actually not really true either. It's more equivalent to like 45,000 armor. And if you're wondering if you can actually get 45,000 armor in Path of Exile 2, the answer is yes, but really the answer is no. Because if you're getting 45,000 armor, that's pretty much all you're getting. You're ignoring life rolls and spending the large part of your character investing in armor at that point. So What does this mean? This means that armor in Path of Exile 2 is really completely useless when it comes to mitigating boss damage. I thought it was bad. It's not just bad, it's horrendous. It is completely useless. When it comes to mitigating damage from trash mobs in the map, it's pretty decent. It can be very good, in fact, if you have lots of armor. But again, are those mobs really going to kill you? No. The things that actually do kill you in Path of Exile 2 are boss attacks that do 5,000 physical damage. And is armor good against these? Absolutely not. Armor is worthless against these. Even these with the overwhelm is much worse because, it does 500 damage, but really it actually behaves like 1,200 damage. So, like, basically, if you have 2,500 armor, which again is not a lot, but it's not trivial, like you invest to have 2,500 armor, you'll reduce this, like, spam hit that it does by nothing because it overwhelms 30. Literally no reduction. So when I mentioned that, like, Cloak of Flame is a bit better than armor, Cloak of Flame is like an absolutely crazy item, just absolutely crazy. I think that if you want to play an armor character, given the new information that we have, Cloak of Flame is actually the best in slot for any armor stacking character, just because of how that works. And when we're talking about energy shield stacking, it is far better than even what I stated in the previous video. I do want to also kind of bring up a few things because now that we've dived into this topic a little bit, obviously they're going to probably have to do something about it because armor is just laughably bad in PoE 2. It's almost as if they missed a decimal on it, honestly. But one thing to talk about is, like, how does it kind of work in PoE 1? Because I mentioned I don't like how it works in PoE 1 because it's so heavily based on an aura or just ignoring it. But it still kind of works. Like in PoE 1, it kind of works because you can make like a melee character, like you can make a warrior and have like a big bonk, and you can actually stack armor and you can have it be meaningful in terms of defenses. Why does it work there? Well, it works there because unlike Cloak of Flame providing a massive amount of elemental conversion, in PoE 1 there's many more effects like that, but they're smaller. So what it lets you do, actually it lets you chase all these small portions of conversion and actually just use them on an armor character. Like, for example, Cloak of Flame has no armor, but it's so good that you pretty much use it on armor character. In PoE 1, you can have like affixes on gear that is actually on armor gear that has similar roles where some damage is converted, and that is obviously very valuable there also. In terms of melee, yes, melee in PoE 2 is again overall really weak. And this is a pretty big part of it. In Path of Exile 1, the damage mitigated from melee is often used from a fortify mechanic that is now generally only usable by melee because it gives you the fortify stacks based on actually dealing melee damage, and these fortify stacks goes up to a base of 20% damage reduction. So in Path of Exile 1, basically, if you do some damage with melee, you take 20% less damage, which is kind of like having 25% more life, which is actually pretty sizable, certainly not negligible. There's also more abundance of rolling percent physical damage reduction, which is just a very strong attribute. And in Path of Exile 1, if you really want to engage with the armor mechanic significantly, you can use endurance charges, which give you 4% physical damage reduction for each one, and you can get quite a few of them. All these systems are missing from Path of Exile 2, and that makes it just kind of a rough situation. For my case, I was playing an Infernalist. I was actually investing in the armor and ES nodes because it's like, I was just thinking, it's like, it's like 12% ES, with some armor versus 15% ES. It's probably pretty close. I can mitigate some physical damage from some of the smaller hits, even if I have a couple thousand armor, right? Honestly, with the new information we have, I spec'd completely out of those nodes. I think armor is just pretty much a waste of time. It's just there has to be something better you could do with your skill points. That's pretty much where it's at right now. It is actually really bad, and for characters like mine where I have other defensive options, it's not like breaking the game for me. But certainly, if you started playing Path of Exile 2 with the dreams of being a heroic warrior bashing down monsters with your colossal hammer, well, you're in for a rough ride. But some people play the game because they sign up for that. So it is what it is, and we'll see what the future holds. I do absolutely expect them to address this mechanic, and I do hope we have a meaningful solution rather than a band-aid like PoE 1 has with multiple mechanics tackling the problem. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.